What are we discussing on today's the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast? The complete team meltdown that we witnessed in the series finale. And is Jordan Montgomery the worst D-backs free agent signing since Madison Bumgarner?
You are Locked On Diamondbacks, your daily Arizona Diamondbacks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Listening to who? The always charismatic host of this podcast, Millard Thomas. I'm a multimedia journalist and I'm a graphic designer, so please go check out my website, millardthomas24.myportfolio.com. On there you can see all my latest work, from my packages to my articles to my photos and my graphic design. This episode is brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.yeah. The right stay can make you a fan of any city, even your rivals. Check out Booking.com for your stay today. On today's Locked On Diamondbacks podcast, we'll talk about the complete team meltdown by the Dbacks in the finale. Is Monty the worst free agent signing since MadBum? And why we need a sweep of the Oakland A's? We'll discuss all that on today's podcast. But first, I wanted to say thank you for making Locked On Diamondbacks your first listen every day. I would not be able to do this podcast without you, my loyal listeners, sharing, subscribing, reviewing, doing all that so I could do this podcast for you. Thank you. It's free. It's available on all platforms, so please continue to tell your friends. And one of those platforms is YouTube. Please hit subscribe to Locked On Diamondbacks on YouTube. Our goal is to hit 2,000 subs by the All-Star break. So once again, please hit subscribe to Locked On Diamondbacks on YouTube. Now let's get into the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast, and let's talk about that complete team meltdown by the D-backs in the series finale, because I use the adjective complete, the whole team, because it was everyone as to why the D-backs lost this series finale. I know it's easy to put all the blame on Jordan Montgomery, and listen, Jordan Montgomery deserves a lot of the blame. If I'm slicing up the blame pie, Monty has the biggest slice. Now, no doubt about it. He was not very good, not very effective against the Twins. Back-to-back games where the D-back starting pitcher looked like it was a BP session for the Twins lineup. Ryan Nelson, awful in game 2. Jordan Montgomery, not much better in game 3. Wasn't really able to fool anyone. A lot of contact given up to the Twins. Like, from the get-go, they were locked in on Jordan Montgomery's pitches. He was not able to fool anyone, and he got his stuff rocked. 74 pitches and less than 3 innings of work is not good stuff by Monty, who is the highest paid D-back, of course. But I can't put the whole blame on Monty. Is he deserving of the biggest slice? Yes, but you can't look at a box score by Monty and say 8 runs allowed, but only 4 earned runs. 8 runs allowed total, but only 4 of them earned. How can that be? How can that be possible? Because it was a complete team meltdown. It wasn't just Jordan Montgomery. It was also the rest of this team that did not help him out at all. We can go and look at that second inning. Yes, the D-backs gave up 6 runs total. I think they could have left that inning with 2 runs allowed max if some other things break right for the D-backs, because you had the one situation where ball ripped to Ketel Marte on the ground. He picks it up. He looks to go to second for the double play. He can't make that play, so he goes to first, and I think it's Willie Castro who beats it out. They rule it a hit, but it's one of those situations where if Ketel Marte is quick to the ball, decisive to the ball, goes to first, automatically, never even looks at second, that's 1 out on the board before a run is even scored. And then Jordan Montgomery, yes, the bases get loaded, but he strikes out Farmer before allowing a run too. So in theory, you can have that Ketel Marte out plus a strikeout before a run is even scored. So you can have bases loaded with 2 outs, and that automatically sets you up in a better situation. Infield single scores a run, and that's like a pretty unfortunate play. If it hits, if the batter hits it to the right a half foot, maybe Geraldo Perdomo makes a play and gets us out the inning. Regardless, the next guy scores via catcher interference. Like, that tells you how down bad we are without Gabriel Moreno. Jose Herrera is not a very good backup catcher, and he struggled in the finale, and he hurt the D-backs in that situation with catcher's interference, and that leads to another run. Then after that, the wheels fall apart in that inning, but you could have easily escaped that inning with 2 earned runs or less if some other plays go the D-backs way. And so I can't put all the blame on a Jordan Montgomery. Was he bad? Yes, he was terrible. You also had a throwing error by Kevin Newman, which would have also ended the inning. If you have 2 outs, if Ketel Marte makes that play earlier, then you still have that. If Ketel Marte makes that out earlier and you still get the strikeout, and then let's say everything else happens as well, and you still end up in the same scenario with Kevin Newman having to make the play at third, well, guess what? He's not throwing that ball to second to try and get the double play. He's probably just picking it up and throwing it to first, and now you have 3 outs, and you leave the inning with no more than 2 runs allowed. There were so many opportunities in that second inning for the D-backs to escape with 2 runs or less. Would it still have been a bad inning? Yes. Would it have still been a bad start for Jordan Montgomery? Yes, but it would have been salvageable. It would have still been a game for the D-backs. Monty overall still probably wouldn't have had the best day. Maybe he goes 4 or 5 innings and gives up 5 or 6 earned runs. But it's a lot better scenario than what we saw happen to Jordan Montgomery in this D-backs team. Because once you saw Monty leave in that 3rd inning and Scott McGough come in, it's like what we said on yesterday's podcast. How many times have we seen that story this year? Starter for the D-backs, looks gross through the first few innings. McGough comes in, innings 3, 4, and 5. He gives up more earned runs, and the D-backs concede the game. That's what happened in the finale. That's what happened in game 2. D-backs offense was able to get things going late as they do in finales. This D-backs team, they consistently score between 5 and 11 runs in finales in the month of June. That has been one of their best games when they're down, or not down, but when they're tied in a series, in a 3-game series, 1-1 through the first 2 games, and then they enter the finale with a chance to win. Typically, they have a great offensive performance. And in this game, they also had a pretty solid offensive performance. You score 4 runs in the 4th. You put up 6 runs total. Like 6 runs in most ball games, 80% of the time should be enough to get you the W if you have decent pitching. And unfortunately, the D-backs had some of the worst pitching you could have. They gave up 13 runs total, and the offense for the D-backs was all in vain. Ketel Marte, he continued to look fantastic. He had a home run. He had a hit. He continues to have a monster season. But for the most part, it does not matter. It did not matter what the offense did today, because when you go down 8-0, when you go down 11-0, it's hard to come back from 11 runs, and the D-backs did their very best. They even were able to cut it 11-4, and then the D-backs pitching gives up 2 more runs to really just kill the confidence of this D-backs team. And now the D-backs need to get, I believe, a sweep against the Oakland A's, and I'll discuss why in segment number 3. But hey, if you're looking to file your taxes, then you're going to want to use Tax Network USA, because here on Locked On Diamondbacks, we pride ourselves on getting you the latest news for your team, whether it's the offseason, the draft, spring training, or the playoffs. It's year round. You know what else is year round? Collection season. Just because tax season is over doesn't mean the IRS will stop coming after you for unfiled taxes. The IRS can garnish your wages, levy your bank accounts, and even seize your property. Don't let the IRS target you. Let the licensed professionals and tax experts at Tax Network USA go to bat for you. With over 14 years of experience and an A+ rating by the Better Business Bureau, Tax Network USA has saved their clients over $1 billion in tax debt. Whether you owe taxes, have complicated matters that require tax planning, or you finally hit that parlay this season and need help correctly filing, call 1-800-549-1000 or visit tnusa.com/lockedon. See the link in the episode description below. And also, if you need any parts for your vehicle, then the place you want to use is eBay Motors, because Passion, drive, and patience, the formula for winning championships, is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back, because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. All right. Let's get back into the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast. And let's talk about, is Jordan Montgomery the worst free agent signing since Madison Bumgarner? Because if you were to look at the numbers, the answer is unequivocally a yes. And that's sad to say, because how excited were you when the D-backs signed Jordan Montgomery? Because I know I was absolutely ecstatic. Jordan Montgomery is someone that has gotten better every single season since 2021. He's looked really good. He's gotten better every single year. You look at his ERA, 2021, 3.83, 2022, 3.48, 2023, 3.2. And of course, it culminated with the World Series victory for the Texas Rangers, where he was dominant. He was fantastic in that run for the Texas Rangers throughout the postseason. He was really good. And throughout his career, 2.63 ERA over 37 innings pitched in the postseason. He's a good playoff performer. And so when the D-backs signed him this offseason, I thought he was the perfect addition, especially considering we already signed Erod, but we knew he wasn't going to start the year. But still, the fact that we had a Erod and then we had Gallen, Kelly, and Fott already, it's like, are we going to have a 5-man deep rotation full of all-stars? It's like we had at least 4 guys who you could say all-star level, plus a Brandon Fott who could emerge as an all-star. You had 5 really good starters that you felt amazing about, and to have Jordan Montgomery added to the rotation felt like a luxury. Felt like the D-backs had way too many riches all of a sudden in their rotation. And as the season has gone on and you've seen Erod not start the year, and then you've seen Kelly go down, it makes you feel even better that Jordan Montgomery decided to sign with the D-backs as you know, rotation depth at this point, because the D-backs rotation has been so down bad in terms of injuries. It makes you feel even more grateful for the fact that Jordan Montgomery was able to sign here, reigning World Series winner. Now he gets an opportunity to really step up and make an impact with his D-backs team, with Kelly and Erod all down. Now we got Gallen down. The opportunity has been there for Monty to really make a name for himself in this D-backs uniform and show everyone why he was signed to such a big contract and why so many people were excited for Monty to come to the D-backs. But instead, he has not been good this year. And in the games where it's like we really need Monty to step up and deliver us a big win, he has not been able to do that. And if you look at the numbers, there's a real statistical argument that Jordan Montgomery is the worst D-back signing since Madison Bumgarner, and potentially a worse free agent signing than MadBum. And that's not something that I would have ever thought to say, because I would have assumed for the D-backs, if they're ever giving out a MadBum level contract, it's for someone that you feel really good about, for someone that's still in their prime, ascending, obviously getting better. And I think in the offseason, Jordan Montgomery did fit a lot of those qualifications. Jordan Montgomery is 31 right now, but he feels like a lot younger 31 than when Madison Bumgarner was signed. Did not have the same mileage on his arm like a Madison Bumgarner did when he signed with the Arizona Diamondbacks. He's a way more fresher 31. And it wasn't like he was given a long-term deal either. So I felt like when you look at the risks that the D-backs took with Madison Bumgarner, I don't think the same risks were there for Jordan Montgomery. The only risk they took on with Jordan Montgomery was the fact that He waited the whole offseason to get signed. Being a Sky Boris client, he waited to the last possible moment to get signed. And I think that is the biggest buyer beware that we're going to see moving forward with free agents next year and over the next few years. You're not going to want to, sign a pitcher, more specifically than I think a position player, to a pretty fat deal right before the start of the regular season if they didn't have a full spring training, if they didn't have a full offseason program, because you can see with Jordan Montgomery, the man is just not in shape right now. He used to be a lot leaner than what he was, and he just does not look like the best version of an athlete that he should be. This is not the best version of Jordan Montgomery. And for him, he needs to get back in the lab. He might need to get in the gym a little bit, because we've seen a way healthier Jordan Montgomery than what we've seen right now. We've seen a better Jordan Montgomery than what we've seen right now. This is a guy who likes to throw his sinker as his go-to pitch. You look at the numbers last year on the sinker: 255 average allowed, 374 slugging allowed. But this season, before the finale, 359 average allowed, 543 slugging allowed on that sinker. And it has been by far been his worst pitch this season. And it's still his go-to pitch. He has to get that figured out. When you look at Jordan Montgomery's stats versus MadBum stats, the first year in Arizona, Monty, after the finale, his ERA has climbed to a 6.03, so slightly lower than Madison Bumgarner's, I think, 6.48 ERA his first year with the Dbacks. But you look at the other numbers, Monty has a worse whip than MadBum. He gives up more hits per 9 than MadBum. He strikes out less, and he also walks more. Monty, across the board, you can make the argument, has been a worse pitcher than Madison Bumgarner his first year with the Dbacks. If you compare both of their first years in Arizona, you can actually make this statistical argument that Monty has been worse than MadBum the first year in Arizona, which is hard to do because MadBum, yes, it was the 2020 short COVID season. He was horrendous in those 9 starts, and Monty right now is doing an impression that is even worse than Madison Bumgarner. With the rotation still hurt, Zach Gallen come back soon, but we don't know what level he's going to be back at, game number 1. And he's already went down one time with injury. Is this going to be a reoccurring thing with his hamstring? I don't know. We need a better version of Jordan Montgomery because there's so many questionables and unknowns right now with his D-backs rotation. Monty is paid like a star, and he needs to start producing like a star. And whatever he has to do to get back on track, we need it right now because this D-backs team is starting to fall back in the wild card race. And if they want to keep pace in the wild card race, you're going to need guys like Madison Bumgarner. Excuse me, not guys like Madison Bumgarner. You're going to need guys like Jordan Montgomery to start pitching like they're Jordan Montgomery and not Madison Bumgarner. And that's one of the reasons why I believe the D-backs need a big series sweep against the Oakland A's in their next series. And we'll talk about that in segment number 3. But hey, I first want to talk to you guys about LinkedIn Sales Navigator, because are you struggling to close deals? Selling is tougher than ever, and that's why I want to tell you about LinkedIn Sales Navigator. LinkedIn Sales Navigator is a sales intelligence platform that helps professionals effectively prospect and engage high-value customers, drive higher revenue, and increase sales performance. Sales Navigator helps you target the right buyers, surface key signals, and shows you hidden allies so you can find those buyers that are most likely to convert. Fueled by LinkedIn's 1 billion member platform, Sales Navigator gives you the most up-to-date first-party data, enabling you to unlock conversations with people that matter. Right now, you can try LinkedIn Sales Navigator and get a 60-day free trial at linkedin.com/lockedon. That is linkedin.com/lockedon for a 60-day free trial. Let LinkedIn Sales Navigator help you sell like a superstar today. Just go to linkedin.com/lockedon and get started. And also, this episode is brought to you by Booking.com, Booking.yeah. With summer travel heating up, especially travel for baseball games, it's time to explore those cities you always secretly want to learn more about. Yes, we're talking about your rival cities with hotels, bed and breakfast, vacation rentals, resorts, and so much more on Booking.com. You just might find your perfect stay, even in your baseball rival city. From hotels that look over stadiums to family-friendly resorts, Booking.com has so many choices across the U.S. for your summer travel this MLB season. The right stay can make you a fan of any U.S. city, even your rivals. Book today on Booking.com on the site or in the Booking.com app. Booking.com, Booking.yeah. All right. Let's get back to the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast. If you're watching this on YouTube, you could see that I spelled the word sweep wrong. It says swept, but I still hold the same take. The D-backs need to sweep the Oakland A's this weekend because with what they did against the Minnesota Twins, they really hurt themselves in this wild card race because you look at the standings now, the D-backs are 3 games back of the San Diego Padres at 518 on Thursday at the time of me recording this podcast. D-backs are starting to fall behind a little bit in the wild card race. They are currently behind the Pittsburgh Pirates, the New York Mets, the Cardinals, the Padres. How? I believe the D-backs are definitely better than the Pirates and the New York Mets, who have been playing pretty solid baseball. D-backs need to pick it up. And I think they need to sweep the Oakland A's. After not winning the finale against the Minnesota Twins, I think you have to make up that extra win by taking 3 straight games from Oakland. We've been talking on this podcast for the last few weeks about the perfect month for the D-backs and how they can handle their business. And we always said the Philadelphia Phillies series, that was going to be a loss. But the rest of this month, we've been calling it and we've been getting it right. They've been winning all these series against mediocre teams and these vulnerable teams. They've been handling their business. The LA Angels, the White Sox, the Nats, they've been able to handle their business for the most part. But then against the Minnesota Twins in the finale, the D-backs were not able to do that. The pitching was not able to step up. And once again, it's another series against a good opponent for the D-backs where they were not able to get a series win. And that's still probably their biggest issue this year. Yes, their offense finally has come alive in the month of June, but you still look at their schedule for the month of June and they still don't beat good teams. The series that they've won in the month of June, none of them have come against a 500 ball club. They split the series against the Padres, who are above 500, which is cool, but they still didn't beat any teams above 500 in the month of June. And that's still the biggest issue that we have with this D-backs team. They don't beat quality opponents. They beat the Dodgers the last month. Yes, let's give a round of applause for the D-backs having one good series win against a team above 500 this year. But you look at the rest of the schedule, they beat the Cardinals one time in the first month of the season. They beat the LA Dodgers in the second month. And then I think that's like the only 2 teams the D-backs have beaten this year that have currently an above 500 record. This D-backs team is mediocre. I think in terms of talent, they are easily a wild card team. But in terms of who they be in this year, and you look at their record, you're only as good as the opponents you beat, and the D-backs never beat the good teams. They are the best of the mediocre teams right now. Of any team that's 500 or worse, I think they're better than any of those teams. But if you're above 500, the D-backs are more than likely going to lose a series to you. That's why they have to capitalize on another winnable series against one of the worst teams in Major League Baseball in the Oakland A's. The A's are kind of rudderless. They don't have a lot going for them. As usual, we kind of knew about that going into the year. They have a lot of weird stuff going on with their stadium. Like, they're trying to leave Oakland. They don't want to be in Oakland, but it doesn't sound like Vegas wants them either. Very weird times if you're an Oakland A's fan. I actually feel bad for them. I mean, I've worked for the Arizona Coyotes the last 3 years, so if anyone knows about arena rumors in your team leaving your city, there's no one that can empathize more than that message than me. I can empathize with that fan base more than probably any person right now that you know. So I feel super bad for Oakland A's fans, but you look at the team, it's just not very good on paper. The offense, one of the worst in Major League Baseball. I like Brent Rooker a lot. I think he's a stud, and I think he's a really interesting trade candidate as we get closer to the deadline for a team that needs a DH. You look at the rotation, not good. A lot of dudes hurt, and the dudes who are healthy, not very good either. Their biggest bright spot is probably Mason Miller, 25-year-old closer, the back end of their bullpen, having a phenomenal season for the Oakland A's, but up and down their team, just not very good, not producing offensively, not producing in the rotation, not producing really in the bullpen. The bullpen is probably the strongest part of that Oakland A's team. For the D-backs, you have to, at home, take care of business against the Oakland A's and keep pace in the wild card race. And it looks like you will get a little bit of help from an old friend in Zach Gallen, who is starting the game potentially on Saturday. D-backs rotation getting a little bit healthier, which is so important right now because the Monties haven't been good enough. The Slades and the Ryan Nelsons are just too inconsistent. Brandon Pfaadt's inconsistent too, but I still have so much faith and belief in a Brandon Pfaadt. If we have Gallen, if we have Pfaadt as her 1 and 2, hopefully Monty can start round out into form. But right now, there's not a lot of trust in these D-back starters, and bringing back a guy like Zach Gallen, who we know is a stud, who we know is absolutely elite, so important to this D-backs team to keep pace in the wild card race. He adds a different level of confidence when he's in the rotation, and not to mention when the D-backs do go through their struggles, if you have Zach Gallen on the mound, you feel like you're going to win that game. Not really a starter in this D-backs rotation outside of maybe a Brandon Pfaadt, because when it is Brandon Pfaadt day, I do feel like the D-backs have a chance to win. But with every other starter, it does not feel good right now when they're on the mound. So I think Zach Gallen is going to be a welcome sight to see if he starts Saturday's game, and he's going to be making a major impact for the D-backs moving forward. So D-backs with Gallen back, we're going to need a big series sweep, and we'll actually preview the D-back series tomorrow before it starts with Sully Baseball. So be on the lookout for that, because that's it for today's edition of the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast. Come back tomorrow for more Diamondbacks news coverage and insight. And as always, stay safe, stay healthy. Doses.